the Rosa Parks story. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks, a 42-year-old African-American woman who worked as a seamstress, boarded this Montgomery city bus to go home from work. On this bus, on that day, Rosa Parks ushered in a new era in the American quest for freedom and equality.
Hey, Rosa, how you doing on this cold afternoon?
Oh, hi, Nellie. I'm doing fine. Yeah, just a little tired. My feet are hurting. I can't wait to sit down on that bus.
Evening, ladies. I hope that there are enough seats in the colored section tonight, because last night I had to stand up all the way home.
Me too.
Rosa sat near the middle of the bus, just behind the 10 seats reserved for whites. Soon, all of the seats in the bus were filled. When a white man entered the bus, the driver, who was following the standard practice of segregation, insisted that all 4 blacks sitting just behind the white section give up their seats so that the man could sit there. Mrs. Parks, who was an active member of the local NAACP, quietly refused to give up her seat. Her actions were spontaneous and not premeditated, although her previous civil rights involvement and strong sense of justice were obvious influences. She was arrested and convicted of violating the laws of segregation known as Jim Crow laws. Mrs. Parks appealed her conviction and thus formally challenged the legality of segregation.
I didn't think it was fair to tell me to stand up when I paid the same price as that man did for my bus ticket. I just wanted to ride the bus home and make dinner for me and my husband.
I'm proud of you, Rosa. I would have been scared to keep my seat. Girl, you're so brave, but now we ain't got no bus to ride.
Local civil rights activists initiated a boycott of the Montgomery bus system. In the cities across the South, segregated bus companies were daily reminders of the iniquities of American society. Since African Americans made up about 75% of the riders in Montgomery, the boycott posed a serious economic threat to the company and a social threat to white rule in the city. A group named the Montgomery Improvement Association, composed of local activists and ministers, organized the boycott. As their leader, they chose a young Baptist minister who was new to Montgomery, Martin Luther King Jr. Sparked by Mrs. Parks' action, the boycott lasted 381 days into December 1956. The U.S. Supreme Court then ruled that the segregation law was unconstitutional and the Montgomery buses were integrated. The Montgomery bus boycott was the beginning of a revolutionary era of nonviolent mass protests in support of civil rights in the United States. Under Jim Crow customs and laws, it was relatively easy to separate the races in every area of life except transportation. Bus and train companies couldn't afford separate cars, and so blacks and whites had to occupy the same space. Thus, transportation was one of the most volatile arenas for race relations in the South. Mrs. Parks remembered going to elementary school in Pine Level, Alabama, where buses took white kids to the new school, but black kids had to walk to their school.
I'd see the bus pass every day, but to me, that was a way of life. We had no choice but to accept what was the norm. The bus was one of the first ways I realized there was a black world and a white world.
Montgomery's Jim Crow customs were particularly harsh and gave bus drivers great latitude in making decisions on where people could sit. The law even gave bus drivers the authority to carry guns to enforce their edicts.
But we had no choice. We needed the buses for transportation.
2 other women had been arrested on buses in Montgomery before Mrs. Parks and were considered by black leaders as potential clients for challenging the law. However, both were rejected because black leaders felt they would not gain white support.
They messed with the wrong one because Rosa is a quiet, God-fearing woman. That's right.
People always say that I didn't give my seat up because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically, or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I wasn't old, even though some people have the image of me being an older woman. I was only 42. I was only tired. I was not tired physically, but I was just tired of giving in.
In the South, city buses were lightning rods for civil rights activists. It took someone with the courage and character of Rosa Parks to strike with lightning, and it required the commitment of the entire African American community to fan the flames ignited by that lightning into the fires of the Civil Rights Revolution. Although widely honored in her later years, she also suffered for her act. She was fired from her job as a seamstress in a local department store. Later, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, "Actually, no one can understand the action of Mrs. Parks unless he realizes that eventually the cup of endurance runs over and the human personality cries out, 'I can't take it any longer.'" On November 13, 1956, as a result of her brave act, the Supreme Court ruled segregation on buses was illegal. 1990, Rosa Parks receives the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest award given by the U.S. legislative branch. The medal bears the legend, "Mother of the Modern-Day Civil Rights Movement."
I always encourage children to stay in school and to get good grades and to believe in themselves. Of course, they should take care of their health and keep themselves from certain things that would be detrimental to them. We should teach them to be good citizens and to do what they can to help other people as they become successful themselves. And I always urge the children to have a spiritual awareness. Put God first in everything you do.
Miss Rosa Parks. Her sunlight, February 4th, 1913, departed this side of heaven, October 24th, 2005. Thank you.